Good evening and welcome to All Things Sky Blue. This is a game preview for our game against Leeds on Saturday at Elland Road. Really looking forward to it. Obviously, we came off a 1-1 draw with Southampton on Wednesday night. A well-fought draw. But yeah, 1-1 draw, and obviously we're leading up to the game on Saturday against Leeds. So as you can see at the bottom of our ticker, where you can find us. So obviously you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. We are partnered with the Anecdote Sports Bar, and we're also sponsored by Right Steel Fabrications. They can do your fabrication work for any steel up and down the country, mainly the West Midlands and the Warwickshire area, but he is willing to travel as well. So I am being joined by Adam from All Stats Aren't We. Good evening. How are we?
Good evening and pleasure to be here. I'm very well, thank you.
Good. Thank you very much for coming on. Obviously, you will notice that Mark's not joined us today. Mark's busy, so it is just going to be the two of us. So first of all, Adam, if you can just let us know what you guys do and where we can find you.
Yeah, of course. I'm a member of quite a big team now at All Stats Aren't We. It was a podcast that was founded quite a few years ago now by John McKenzie, which a few of your listeners might know, of the TIFO football channel now. He's one of the most prominent founders of that. He's obviously taken a step back lately, but we're still going strong and got a decent team going, and we do quite a bit of stuff. We get up to, we analyse a lot of the games and preview them as well, which I've got you on for ours, which is great. But yeah, mainly we talk about players and tactics and things like that. Sometimes a little bit about sort of upcoming transfer windows and scouting and stuff like that. So yeah, there's a lot going on, but broadly speaking, our tagline is we look at the underlying statistics and tactical footings at work at Leeds United, and that is our main job.
Fantastic. Excellent. I love it. I do like the stats side of things. We don't go that technical into it. We just sort of we go in more into sort of the players and the team and how we're playing and stuff like that, really. We don't, figures and numbers aren't necessarily our strongest suit, if you like, but we enjoy talking about Coventry, and obviously we enjoy talking about football in general, and we love having our guests on, like yourselves, that come on from other fan base. It's another side as well, really. So thank you very much coming on. So let's go through the history. Obviously, it has been a while since we've played you guys. So I think the last time that we actually played was in I think it was in our relegated year, and that was our last win as well, which was back in 2012. You being the stats man might be able to tell me a little bit more. Is that true?
I think it's true. I actually haven't checked myself. I probably need to before I record my podcast. But I distinctly seem to remember a young me watching Robert Snodgrass score an absolute screamer against you, but I can't remember too much else from that era of Leeds United. I was quite young then.
Yeah. So obviously we did get relegated in the last season that we did play you. I know that one. The last time that we actually won at Elland Road was back in the Premier League, when we were both in the Premier League back in 6, and we won 3-1. And Huckabee, Dublin, and McAllister scored for us. And I can't quite remember. I think it might have been Brian Dean that scored for you. I think. Don't quote me on that one. You might be able to work that one out later. So obviously, the last 5 games that we've had, we haven't done very, very well. And I think over our entirety of the games that we've had, I don't think we've done very well. They've always been quite close. So the last 5 that I've gone back for is we've lost 3, we've drew 1, and we've drew 1. But all by 1 goal. So even though we haven't done very well, we've been in the game. From your memory of the games, I know obviously you might have to go back a little bit and you might not quite remember, but how did you find them games?
They were tight, but this is like, For listeners that don't know, I'm 25, so this is when I was sort of,
right,
you know, 11, 12, 13, so I don't remember too much of it. But yeah, Coventry are a team I really like. So even though I don't remember too many of our clashes against each other, they're a team that I've followed quite a lot in the last few years. Obviously, with you going all the way down to League Two and back up again, and you've really worked your way back up nicely, and you're now in a much more stable place, I have to say. But yeah, I don't remember too much about our actual games against you, other than, like I say, that Robert Snodgrass screamer, and I think that was a game we lost, actually, if I remember rightly. So yeah, not all too much.
Yeah, so obviously we have had mixed fortunes in terms of we got relegated obviously, and from the Premier League and from League One and the Championship, and obviously you guys, you went on to, especially under just trying to think of his name now. It's gone out of my head, but you went to the Champions League and you've had success there, but has slowly. With financial issues and things like that, I think in the past that you've slowly dwindled down. But would you call yourself a typical yo-yo club, or do you think you're a bit better than that, and it was just unfortunate that you got relegated?
There were just quite a few reasons that all went wrong in the end. The appointment of Jesse Marsh after Bielsa made no sense at the time. He went from a manager that was playing very much a sort of wide system where the pitch was stretched as much as possible, to a manager that wanted to condense the team into little areas of the pitch, and that didn't make any sense whatsoever. So the only thing that really kind of matched up between Bielsa and Marsh was the intensity, I guess, and the pressing. So that's why it really went wrong. But I wouldn't say we've necessarily been a yo-yo club, but then again, if we go up this season, that will be a relegation and a promotion back to back. So potentially we could become one like that. But I'd like to think if we go up this season, that we might stabilise a little bit better than we did last time. We did have 3 seasons, obviously, in the Premier League, but before that, it'd been 16 years, and it'd been a long time. And I know it's been longer for you guys, but it had been a really long time for us.
Yeah, definitely. That I think I'm not saying that we're similar in that way, but it's. I think we have had similar paths to a certain extent with owners and stuff like that in the past as well. But I think we're both, you more so obviously because you've just got relegated, but I think we're both on the right path to be getting a little bit more of a stable club. Obviously, that's the history of it really in a nutshell. So let's talk about this season. I've noticed in my notes that you've had 20 players come in and you've had 17 go out. Most of them, to be fair, have been on loan as well. You haven't really got rid of many. But 2 noticeable ones for myself that you've bought in is 1, Joel Perot, and 2, Ampadu. Both fantastic players. For me, when we lost Vic, Joel Perot was one of the ones that I thought spend money on because he's just a quality player. How has he started for you? How is obviously Ampadu's a brilliant player anyway, but how Joel and the rest of the guys started for you guys?
Perot in particular has become a kind of a key player in the sense of he's played a lot of games and played a lot of minutes. He's our second top scorer this season, and he's not necessarily playing as an out-and-out striker to do so. He's playing kind of more of a second striker role, which isn't too dissimilar from what he was doing at Swansea. Even if he was playing as a striker, he was kind of operating in a lot of the same positions on the pitch and attacking the box from a deeper sort of area. I think a lot of Leeds fans get a little bit frustrated with him because some of his intensity off the ball and out of possession is not necessarily always the best. And that obviously means that he's not always involved in play as much as some people would like, and also in playing that role behind the striker. I think a lot of fans see it as that sort of number 10 role. You want a bit more creativity there, perhaps, but he's not really that sort of player. But at the same time, he's had more shots than anyone in our team. He's put really strong numbers for his expected goals and things like that, and he's basically our main man for that purpose. And he, for me, just fulfills his role perfectly. And I know that there are issues in terms of his passing and out of possession stuff, but he's always going to be in the team for that reason. But we've had quite a lot of players. Obviously, you mentioned the churn there and a lot of the changes in the summer for us. And I think it was kind of a mix of reasons. There was some players that had those loan clauses, as you kind of alluded to there, but it was just a bit of a chaotic summer in general. So players like Perot came in quite late in the window because we had to ratify our takeover that we had done. Because of that, it delayed things with Daniel Farker and his appointment. We couldn't make the appointment and actually confirm it until the takeover had been ratified, and then everything just got backlogged in terms of players both in and out of the club. So we had a bit of a late sort of window in terms of both incomings and outgoings, and that was really frustrating for a lot of the fans, because it has meant that we've had a bit of a slow start, albeit we are now kind of flying recently in the league, and we've won 9 of the last 12. I think before that Sunderland game, it was 9 of the last 11. So we've been really, really good form, and that's great. And we've got 7 wins at Elland Road in a row. Not to scare you too much, and we're not underestimating you either. Don't worry. But yeah, like a lot of the players that have been key have either been from sort of last season or they were signed quite late in the window. So Perot being one, Glenn Kamara another. There was a couple of others as well. Ampadu, you mentioned, he's been absolutely fantastic for us. For example, he was one of the earlier signings actually in the window, and he bedded in really nicely, really quickly. But yeah, like I say, a lot of the players that have been really good have been players that have stepped down from the Premier League. So seen huge upturn in players like Pascal Strauch. He's been absolutely outstanding at centre back for us. I don't think everyone in the Championship really knows about him too much, but he's really stepped up. He's a ball progression monster, really, whether it's from passing or carrying. You got Ruter, the striker, that you might be aware of as well. He's the kind of creative spark for someone like Perot. So even though Perot plays deeper than him, he's the main goal scorer, and Ruter is the main sort of creative player. He drags players around, he creates space through that, and then he's got a real good eye for a pass. And then the star absolutely is Crescencio Somerville. He's been absolutely outstanding for us, and he's a goal and assist output machine again, and is basically our main attacking player, whether it's through dribbling the ball or passing and creating chances, or it's actually scoring goals himself. So we've got quite a nice team considering the chaos that was the summer, and there were players that obviously needed to go to trim the wage bill, but there were other players that we obviously didn't really want to let go, but they had those loan clauses, and there was just various other issues. Obviously, a lot of players didn't want to play in the Championship anymore if they played a lot of top flight football in their career. So, yeah, considering the summer that we had, I'm very happy with the position we're in, and I'm delighted with most of our signings. Just a couple that have not necessarily played as much as I'd have liked. Someone like Jed Spence, I know that you talked about in our preview, for example, and he's a great player, but we've not seen much of him yet because he's been injured a lot. So we're hoping to see more from him. But in general, the squad's in decent shape going into January. So I am pretty happy with where things are.
Yeah, look, you've just mentioned about 5 or 6 different players there, and they can probably all play in the Premier League. You've loaned out Sam Greenwood, who's doing really, really well with Middlesbrough. Luis Sinisterra, that's doing really, really well at the moment with Bournemouth, and then you've got one of my favourite players from back in the Premier League anyway, Jack Harrison. He's starting to turn up. Is he at Everton?
Yes, he is. Yeah.
Yeah. He's starting to turn up for Everton a little bit more, and I think it just shows your level of strength and your quality that you've got. And that's why I do think that you'll definitely finish in the top 6. Look, I think we can talk about the top 2, Ipswich and Leicester. I think they're kind of running away with it, and I think there's going to be. I think there's probably only you and Southampton, maybe, if they have a little bit of a dip in form. I don't see it. I think I think you and Southampton are both fighting for the 4th, 5th, and 6th position, 3rd, 4th, 5th. But it's it can be. Look, we did it last year. We're in a similar position in terms of points away from the playoffs, so we might be able to sneak that 6th position, maybe 5th. We got 5th last year. But look, I think for you guys, it's just incredible. Just like I said, the strength and depth that you've got with the players. But saying that, I was kind of worried about Southampton, and I said that if we perform, I think we will give anybody a game. I'm not saying that we'll win every game, but we'll give people a game. And against Southampton on Wednesday night, we gave them a good game, and we were unfortunate, really. A draw was a fair result in the end, I think. But I think if we turn up against you guys, I think we might be able to scrape something. when we do our predictions later, you probably won't be surprised by what I'm going to go for, but you never know. So expectations then, from the start of the season, what was your expectations to what they are now?
I guess it was that we wanted to at least challenge for automatic promotion, which obviously we are currently doing. You've actually caught us at an interesting time that you're playing us, because it's this next 3 games that are going to be potentially season defining for us. Ipswich play Norwich, which obviously is a big derby game in East Anglia, and then they've got us at Elland Road, and then after that they play Leicester. So essentially, this could be a huge 3 games for us to claws back some points, so we really do need to beat you. But in general terms, we kind of expected, a Farke, a 2-time championship winning manager, coming in with a squad like the one we've got, even with all the sort of stuff going on in the summer at the end of it and how chaotic it was. We were always expecting to be pretty high in terms of expectations. Obviously, the slow start hasn't helped us, and that was partly in, because of the issues we had with the squad and everything else in the summer. But in general, in a good place still, even now, and the expectations haven't really changed, even though, like you say, the gap is there and it is looking more difficult. But it's largely been going really well, and it's been a really, really strong time for us since September, really, since the start of September. We're expecting to still finish in the top 2, I would say, and pretty satisfied so far with Farke, even though there have been a few issues in terms of some tactical stuff we'd maybe have seen differently and a few tweaks here or there, but can't complain too much because we've still picked up as many points really as anyone's picked up in the last sort of 5-6 seasons at the top end of the championship. I think in pretty much all of the last 5 or 6 seasons we'd be first or second. I think it's just this incredible points haul that the top 2 have got, which has held us back a little bit. But we are playing like an automatic promotion chasing team, and I think we'll continue to do so. We might just need a couple of additions in January really, and that might heighten expectations even more if we can hang on to some more of our key players and sign a couple of guys. I think we've got an issue at left back now with Sam Byram injured and Junior Firpo perennially injured. Really, he's never managed to stay fit while he's been at the club. So there are a couple of things that might tip us over the edge and maybe bring us closer to that top 2. But like I say, it's this next 3 games that are so key for basically us and Ipswich in this race.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, you mentioned there, the tactical changes that Farke has done. How do you guys play? Obviously, I know you most teams you'll have the most possession, just like Southampton did against us on Wednesday night. Do you see it going that way, or do you think you might change it slightly to be a bit more counter-attacking?
I think at home we've largely been really, really dominant. It's been away from home that it's not always gone as planned. Obviously, teams have caused us issues at home at times. I think Borough, particularly recently, were a team that causes a lot of problems. But in general, we do try to obviously possess the ball and build through the thirds. It doesn't mean it always happens in the way we'd like. And actually, a lot of our goals this season have come in transition. I think in general, that's our best route to goal and the way we score best. We've got just so many players in our attacking line. They're so good on the counter attack and in transition. Ruter and Somerville probably the main 2, but even Dan James has been absolutely electric on the right whenever we have a chance to counter teams, and we've just got so many players that have that decisive moment in them. I think that has been one of the criticisms this season. Even though we've built well enough through the thirds, we don't always necessarily do well against a low block, and that's been one of the criticisms of Farke, which obviously is interesting because I don't think that was ever really an issue at Norwich, but he's had to be adaptable, and there are definitely some profiles in our forward line missing slightly that he maybe would like. He hasn't got a Buendia playing off the right like he did at Norwich. He's got his most creative player being Ruter and Somerville perhaps, but are not at the same level, even though they're brilliant. So there are some small issues that he's had to deal with and had to be adaptable with. But that I still think that we should have enough in this game. I'm not going to give away my prediction to beat you, but that I think is mainly down to a kind of a player quality differential. And I think that has probably, I don't want to be too critical of Farke because I do like him a lot and he's done a lot of things well, particularly out of possession. I think we've started to get really, really good in recent games. Our pressing's been much, much better, and we don't tend to get that wrong too often, especially in that Leicester game. I don't know if you watched that. That was a few weeks ago. We were very good in that game out of possession. It's in possession where I think he has maybe had to rely on individual quality rather than his tactics to win games, which maybe wasn't true at Norwich when he went up with them twice in the past. So that's maybe a slight issue. But in this game, I'm hoping that if the game does become a little bit stretched and a bit like the ball's turning over a lot in midfield, that we might get the better of you, because if we can hit you on the break straight away, then we've got the players that really will hurt you.
Yeah, so I would like to look. You mentioned Dan James there as well. We haven't even touched on Dan James, but again, it just shows the strength. I don't want to sort of have this stream really as a too much of a big up for Leeds, because I do think that we will, if, like you said, if we turn up, there has been games that we haven't showed up for, and we have got beaten against a Leeds, a good Leeds side. I just don't want us to get turned over too much. However, games at the moment for us have been going pretty well, and we have a core thing. We're starting to take a few chances now. The defense seems to be solid. We've got a solid back five now, including the goalkeeper, because we have changed the back four. It's the midfield areas. Again, I think I said on your pod that I did with you guys that I think that's where the battle is going to be won. If we can get win the first balls and the tackles and then the second balls, the quickness of our midfield players at the moment, especially with Callum O'Hare coming back into the frame as well, and Hadji's scored on Wednesday night for us as well. It's starting to turn, and we're starting to click, and we're starting to play like a team again. Where do you see the threats coming from us, if you see any threats at all?
Yeah, of course, there's plenty. I must say, before I sort of dive into this section, that I would probably say you or Middlesbrough are the team I've watched most in the Championship over the last couple of years, and you were very much an interesting team that I had an eye on last season a lot. I'm one of these guys that, even though Leeds are a Premier League team, I watch a heck of a lot of EFL football. I do quite enjoy the EFL. So yeah, and there's a couple of guys that are all stats on that will do that as well, but I'm definitely one of them. And yeah, obviously was a huge fan of Victor Gyökeres last season. Absolutely fantastic player. Gustavo Harmer as well, and you got a lot of money for them. And I do think you invested it fairly well into the squad, even though you aren't necessarily riding super high at the moment. I still think this is a pretty good team. I note that your sort of underlying numbers, I know you don't necessarily look at the stats side of stuff, but I'll just quickly dive into that for a second. I think the last time I checked was a few days ago. I think it was before the Southampton game, actually, and you were like 6th or 7th for expected points and sort of XG and all of that. So that's really promising. And obviously you have mentioned yourself on our podcast that Hadji Wright and Matt Godden haven't necessarily been as prolific as you'd like this season, but I know that they've had a lot of shots and they put up a lot of XG themselves, so I think that's quite promising. Obviously, they're getting in the right positions, not necessarily taking the chances, but at least they're there, so that's good. You're creating goal scoring opportunities, and those are two of the players getting on the end of them, so I do think that could turn quite easily. And I know that Hadji Wright again has been scoring a little bit more recently, and the goals have started flowing in a little bit more, so that's obviously good for you. And he's a player I'm kind of interested to watch a bit more of. I've seen you a little bit this season, but maybe not as much as I'd like. But he always interests me because he's obviously getting on the end of a lot of things, like I mentioned, but he's a big physical, quite fast guy. So he's stretching and pulling players around a lot, and maybe not in the same way as Victor did for you, but still a really, really interesting profile of player. Milan van Evik.
Yes.
He's a player that I was interested with the Leeds in the summer because he was linked to us very briefly just before you signed him, actually.
That's right, he was.
And obviously, as part of my podcast, we do look at things like this, and I had a little look at him around that time, and he looked like a really good player. And I watched him in the Birmingham game recently at U1, and he was excellent
on Friday,
in that game. He's got great energy. He's really quick and just looks like a really threatening player in the final third when he gets there. And obviously down his side, Sakamoto looks really promising, has been creating a lot for you recently. But there's quite a few players that I really like, and the two I really wanted to talk about most were Ben Sheaf, who's obviously basically established himself as one of the best operators in midfield in the league. I would say his sort of retention. You'll know this as much as I will, but his retention and progression is pretty nice in terms of what he does with the ball. But off the ball, he's obviously a really good sort of screener and protector for that back five that you mentioned. And then the guy who's kind of the talk of the town at the moment with you guys, who's come back and is doing really well, is Callum O'Hare. He's definitely a player I've got an eye on. He's running low on contract, I know, which is interesting. You might want to sort that out. I wouldn't mind Leeds bringing a player like that in. Obviously, you can play a few positions in midfield, but a really, really quality player. Like, obviously, he can dribble and carry the ball really nicely. He's decisive now. Seems to be more than when he was in his early 20s. Obviously, he's getting on a little bit now in terms of he's been around for a little while now. He's 25, and I think that surprised me a bit when I saw it. But then when you realise he has just been injured quite a bit, and that's what's kind of held him back. That's probably why. But he's an excellent operator again at this level, and someone I really hope does well for you. Maybe not in the game against us, but another player who will really, really hurt us in transition and on the counter when he gets the ball. And he's very, very good at dribbling. Obviously, you know this, and someone I'm quite worried about if we can't put shackles on him in this game. And I think Ampadu might have his hands full, might not want to be straying too far forward, and might need to keep an eye on O'Hare because he's definitely a good player. So, yeah, all in all, I think you've got a pretty decent squad, even though you've lost two key guys. And there's plenty of threats. I probably missed a few myself already off that. I know Casey Palmer's a decent player. He's on your bench quite a lot, or he's injured quite a lot, which is a shame. But another player that intrigues me because I think he's got a lot of qualities. But yeah, you've got a decent squad, and I think you did use a lot of that money quite nicely. So I think this is a team you mentioned you might get in the top six. I think if you put a gun to my head right now, I would expect you to finish somewhere in the top sort of 9. Seems like you've been trending upwards of late, and you've got the squad to do it. And if you can get one or two more little bits and pieces in January, I see no reason why you wouldn't be a side right in that mix in the playoffs. I think there's a batch of maybe 4 or 5 teams that are not quite in it or around it at the moment that could all fight for places. Middlesbrough are a team I quite like, even though they've been a little bit up and down, and Sunderland and yourselves. So there's quite a few teams that I'm worried about, and I do think this game is a potential banana skin for all the reasons I've just stated.
Yeah, look, even though I am bigging up Leeds a lot, and I probably haven't given us as much credit as I probably should have done on my own podcast. But yeah, no, you're exactly right. Our turn of fortune has slowly become, because we've found a way of playing, because obviously last year we were all about a back three and the wing backs. We had Ian Matson and we had Darbo and Todd came, couldn't quite get the right side really there, I suppose. And then we tried to start it at the start of this season, and for some reason I think with the amount of players that we had in, it didn't quite work. It just felt that we were putting square pegs in round holes. And then he all of a sudden against QPR, he went to a back 4 in the second half, changed it, and we were a lot more solid. And that's when Sim scored his 2 goals. And then from there on in, he's played around a little bit against Ipswich especially. And I hope he doesn't do that against you guys, really, and change what seems to be working and put in, like I said, then now we've got round pegs in round holes. And you've mentioned Sakamoto. Obviously, Callum was out for a year with I think it was an Achilles injury or a knee. I think it was maybe.
It was ACL, I think. Yeah.
ACL. Yeah, you're right. So he's been out for a year. He has come back, but he is very infectious. Just with the way he plays, he elevates everybody on that pitch straight away. And you can kind of see that because Hadji Wright and Sims were a little bit, I suppose, within themselves, really. But you can see now with Callum on that pitch, they are getting about a little bit more, and they are working a little bit more off the ball. Probably not as much as I would like them to. I'd still want a little bit more from them. But you can see Cal was very infectious. And then when Casey Palmer come on Wednesday night against Southampton, again, he just chased everything down. And if we can get a fit Casey Palmer for a half-decent length of time, because as you mentioned, he is in and out with injuries, unfortunately. But a fit Casey Palmer and a fit Callum O'Hare in that central midfield, along with Sheaf probably, we are going to be up there somewhere. I've always said from the start of the season, we're definitely a top 8 side, and I still think we'll finish in the top 8. Whether we finish in the top 6, if we can push there that season, might be a bridge too far, just with the quality that's in there already with yourselves now. Obviously, Ipswich, Leicester still, Southampton still, Middlesbrough, as you've mentioned, and Sunderland, as you've mentioned as well. There's 6-7 teams right there that can all get in there. But we didn't start our good run until February last year, where we went 18 games and only lost one game against Burnley 1-0 at their place. So, we can go on that run again, and I'm sure of it. And you're exactly right that Hadji and Sims and Godden just need to put a little bit more of them chances away, and we will start firing. I still think someone's there for a right battering off us, because we'll take every chance that we get, and it will be maybe a 4 or 5. We're just waiting for it all to click. It's coming slowly, but we're getting there. We are getting
hopefully not against us.
Hopefully Saturday. Look, if we do right, so we'll go on to predictions then. I'll do yours first. So what are you going for as your prediction?
Yeah, we don't typically do these on All Stats, aren't we? We kind of sort of try not to, because we don't want to jinx anything. And there's a couple of guys on our podcast that have a bit of a tendency to do that, so we try to steer clear. But okay. I will say that I do think we'll probably win again. Obviously, that I would like to back us to do that. Like I say, we've won 7 in a row now at Elland Road. Not all of them have been as convincing as other ones. There's been some in there that have been absolutely outstanding, and we've blown teams away, and there have been others that have been less of a complete performance, I'd like to say. But we still tend to come out on top. And even though I've mentioned quite a few of the threats that you have and how I'm a little bit concerned, I'm going to go with a 2-1 win. Okay. If you wanted me to predict a goal scorer, I'll actually say the man that you mentioned earlier. I think Perrault's got a pretty good record in recent games at home, especially. He'll obviously be on penalties if we get anything like that as well. And we do have quite a few tricky, dynamic attackers in the final third that will win fouls around the box. So hopefully that could be something as well. But yeah, I would go with the 2-1 win, and with Perrault to score one. I just wanted to add on to something you said a bit earlier, and about how far back you are, just quickly. I note that the top 6 from last season, the 4 teams that finished in the playoffs at this time last year, they all weren't in the playoffs, actually. I know that's not as likely to happen this season with Leeds and Southampton in the place they are, 3rd and 4th. They look very secure there. But I'd say that there's the 5th and 6th spots are kind of open to probably about 10 teams. So even if you lose this game, I don't think you should be too disheartened. I think you're on the right track again. And like you say, I think you're more primed for a better run at the second half of the season, a better run at this, and I think a few players will be more bedded in by then. So I think you're going to give us a game, and I think it's going to be tough, and that's why I'm going to go with the 2-1 Leeds win.
Okay, fair enough. Look, I totally agree with you. I think that there is about probably 10 teams vying for them, probably 2 spots, if I'm honest. But yeah, I think that we're, I think when you look at a game against Leeds, and against probably Leicester and Ipswich. And that's what, with the change of formation that Robbins did against Ipswich, I think he thought that was a little bit of a free hit. And I think he's going to think the same again. So it wouldn't surprise me if he did change formation and changed a bit of personnel in there as well, and just try and maybe hold on for a 2-1 loss. If he sticks, though, with the same team, 4-3-3, playing the formation that we're playing in, I think we will give you a little bit more of a game. If he tinkers, I would be a little bit more worried. But if he does stay the same, then I think we will give you a game. And I'm going to go for the reverse of the prediction that you've just said. I'm going to go for a 2-1 City win. I think if we show up, like I've said already, that we will give anybody a game. And I firmly believe that. And if we show up and played like we played against Southampton, and just fine tune a few bits, I think we can edge it slightly. So I am going to go for a 2-1 City. So thank you very much for that. So like I always do with any guests, we do a little bit of a word association. So you can give me a one-worded answer if you want, or if you've got to think about it, or you can say no comment if you don't want to be too out there with any answer. All right. So the first one is Elland Road.
Fortress.
Excellent. Liam Cooper.
Leader.
Okay. Daniel Farker.
One word.
It doesn't have
First
to be
thing that came into my head was German, but I don't want to go with that. Intelligent.
Excellent. Favourite away ground?
In the Championship or in general?
In general.
Borussia Dortmund.
Okay. Have you been Borussia Dortmund then?
No, need to go next year, I think.
Right, okay.
Me and my brother. Yeah.
Okay. Excellent. How about the Championship then? Favourite away ground in the Championship?
You want me to say you guys, don't you?
No, not at all. Not at all. You haven't been to us yet, have you? So
no, I've not. That's a really hard question. I think the Stadium of Light's a big spectacle of a ground, but it's a bit soulless. So I don't really want to say them. Sound a bit like my dad, you know. He obviously he grew up near Roker Park, actually.
right, okay.
I'll go with the Riverside.
Okay. Wait until you've been to the CVS and then it will be us. We'll get you rocking. You won't be able to outsing us there. You'll struggle. I tell you what, you'll struggle on Saturday, especially if we get a goal up, because I know how loud you guys can be.
Absolutely.
And the last one, favourite manager?
Marcelo Bielsa.
Marcelo
Bielsa, yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, thank you very much. If you can just let us know what you guys do and where we can find you.
You can find us on most platforms. We're not on TikTok. We're on Twitter is probably the main one. That's probably where you're going to see most of our stuff get posted. But yeah, we're on all of the podcast platforms you would like. So SoundCloud, Spotify, all of them really. And we are All Stats, Aren't We? And the Twitter link for that, if I remember exactly the handle, let me just get it up right now. One moment. I always forget it. The exact handle is at All Stats, Aren't We? All one word. And yeah, we'll probably post most of our stuff there. But yeah, you can follow most of the guys, probably linked through that as well, including myself. So you can find us all there. But yeah, we do, like I say, a lot of Leeds related content, whether it's scouting or whether it's looking at games. Mostly it's been looking at games this season, previewing and reviewing games. And yeah, it's been really, really good. We've been managing to put out a hell of a lot of content this season. And obviously we've got the preview for this game coming up ourselves. So please do head on over and check that out, because you are on that, Stuart. And I was listening to your voice just before I came on today. So I've heard a lot of you for the last couple of hours.
Oh God, my drones. I don't envy you at all.
No, it was great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you very much. And obviously, we'll do it on the reverse fixture as well. We'll get you guys back on as well.
Absolutely.
And then obviously one of us is more happy to come on yours if you need us to. All right. Thank you very much. Don't shoot off. So just before I do sign off, just remember where you can find at All Things Sky Blue, TikTok, Facebook, X, TikTok, Instagram. We are on YouTube as well. Please go and like and subscribe anything that we do. Next week, I'll be doing my own little show that I've got In My Opinion with, where you can ask me questions or whatever you need to do. We are partnered with the Anecdote Sports Bar, and we are also sponsored by Right Steel Fabrications that you can see in a corner somewhere. So once again, thank you very much, Adam, for coming on. Much appreciated.
No problem at all, mate.
Thank you. This will go on YouTube tonight, and we'll link you guys into it. So then if you can link it to your stuff that you do as well, it'll be much appreciated.
Absolutely.
Brilliant. So good luck for the rest of the season, apart from Saturday. All right. Thank you very much, Adam. See you soon.
You too. Thank you.